Okay, so are you feeling the squeeze of rising CPMs lately? Have those campaign structures that absolutely crushed it for you just a year ago suddenly hit a brick wall? Well, if so, you are definitely not alone. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing a definitive, full teardown of Meta's massive 2026 AI infrastructure. Look, the game hasn't just changed, the entire board has been flipped upside down. So let's dive into exactly what happened under the hood, and much more importantly, how you can actually win in this totally new era.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover why the old rules are dead. Second, we'll peek inside Meta's AI stack. Third, we'll break down the targeting inversion. Fourth, we'll talk about feeding the machine. And finally, we're going to wrap the whole thing up with the 2026 winning playbook.
All right, Section 1. The old rules are literally dead. We just have to face reality here. Campaigns that reliably printed money a year ago, they're failing. And with CPMs up roughly 20% year over year, pretty much all advertisers have noticed the symptoms, but honestly, very few have actually recognized the root cause.
And that root cause is a complete 180-degree inversion of control. Think about it. Pre-2024, you were squarely in the driver's seat, right? You pick the interests, the lookalikes, the exact placements. It was manual, it was rule-based, and honestly, it was kind of comforting. Fast forward to 2026, and the system has completely inverted. Today, you control the creative and the budget. That's it. Meta's AI controls the delivery. We've officially crossed over from a manual, audience-first system to an AI-driven, creative-first reality. That brings us to Section 2, inside Meta's AI stack. So that old concept of a single monolithic meta algorithm, yeah, that's completely dead. It's roughly 6 years out of date. What we actually have right now is 5 interlocking AI systems, running at the massive compute scale of a frontier large language model.
Let's break down the actual anatomy of this machine. At the very top, we have GEM, the Generative Ads Recommendation Model. You can think of GEM as this massive teacher model that's basically learning from everything happening across Meta. Right beneath that is Andromeda, which is a retrieval engine that actively scans your creative. Then Lattice steps in to handle unified ad ranking, while UTIS acts as an interest-match calibrator to make sure people genuinely want to see your ads. And finally, you've got the Adaptive Ranking Model, which is the underlying infrastructure layer, making this whole shebang happen in real time.
To really wrap your head around the sheer magnitude of this tech, let's just look at Andromeda. When it rolled out, it represented a 10,000x increase in model complexity at the retrieval stage. 10,000 times. Just let that sink in for a second. The system is no longer just filtering by basic audience parameters, it's using advanced computer vision to literally read the content of your ad to predict exactly who is going to convert. So, the really crucial point here is how these systems actually talk to each other. It's through a process called knowledge distillation. See, GEM is just way too massive to serve ads directly, so instead it observes what's working globally and constantly teaches those smaller student models like Andromeda and Lattice. This, by the way, is exactly why those little media buying hacks absolutely do not work anymore. The system actively self-corrects against exploitation in a matter of days. You just can't outsmart it.
Now, despite all this wild sci-fi level AI advancement, the fundamental auction equation remains the beating heart of delivery. The ad with the highest total value wins. Simple, right? But the massive game changer is how those variables are calculated today. GEM and Lattice are now aggressively powering the estimated action rate and ad quality side of the equation, using deep contextual user journeys and real user satisfaction surveys.
Which brings us to Section 3, the targeting inversion. Because Andromeda actually reads your creative to find buyers, we have arrived at this massive philosophical shift. Your creative is literally your targeting now. Check out this wildly jarring number that totally validates the shift. Meta's own data science team states that creative quality now accounts for roughly 56% of all campaign performance outcomes. 56%. That is more than targeting, budget, placement, and timing combined. So if creative is your targeting now, the absolute most tactical question you have to ask yourself in 2026 is this: what actually creates a new entity ID? See, Andromeda clusters visually similar ads together and gives them a single retrieval ticket to go out and find an audience. If you just swap a font color or lightly tweak a headline, Andromeda sees the exact same ad and just gives you the exact same ticket.
So to get a new ticket, you need genuine creative diversity. And I'm talking fundamentally different visual concepts here. You need to swap formats, like going from a raw user-generated content video to a highly polished studio asset. You need to target entirely different customer personas or tackle totally different value propositions. Even running partnership ads with whitelisted creators will trigger a new entity ID. The days of winning just by flooding the system with minor variations are completely over. Conceptual diversity is literally the only way to scale now.
All right, moving to section 4, feeding the machine. We know how the AI stack works in theory, but let's shift to operations. How do you structurally feed this massive AI stack the clean data it needs so it can actually do its job?
Well, I'm just going to deliver this straight. The learning phase is math. It is not a mystery. Your ad set absolutely requires 50 optimization events within a 7-day window to exit the learning phase, period. If your budget is too low to hit 50 conversions in a week, you are mathematically starving the machine. It's really that simple. And to get those 50 events consistently, you need flawless signal quality. Look at this reality check on tracking today. If you're relying purely on the traditional browser pixel in 2026, you are only capturing about 60% of your conversions. Browser restrictions block the rest. So, the Conversions API, or CAPI, is no longer just some best practice. It's mandatory infrastructure.
Fortunately, you have 5 very viable paths to implement CAPI today. This ranges from Meta's zero-configuration one-click CAPI to native integrations like Shopify, all the way up to super robust direct API builds for enterprise teams. Pick the one that fits your team's technical bandwidth, but whatever you do, you must get server-side tracking in place to feed this algorithm. Now, once CAPI is running, your focus shifts over to Event Match Quality, or EMQ. This score basically grades how well your conversion events match to real Meta users. You want a floor of 6.0, but really you should aim for 7.0 or higher. You hit that by passing hashed emails and phone numbers. But, and this is a massive, crucial warning here, never, ever hash your click IDs or browser cookies. Doing that breaks the matching completely. Remember, the algorithm only lowers your CPA when you bid on signals that actually match real, verifiable buyers.
And speaking of signals, I have to highlight this massive update from late 2025. Meta now uses interactions with its AI chat as a deep intent signal for ad personalization. It's powerful stuff. However, because of varying regional privacy laws, this signal is completely excluded in the EU, the UK, and South Korea. It is literally creating vastly different targeting landscapes depending on where in the world you're operating.
Okay, final stretch. Section 5, the 2026 winning playbook. Let's pull all these threads together into a direct, unflinching operational roadmap for CMOs and media buyers right now.
First things first, we have to acknowledge the timeline. Fighting automation is completely futile. Meta has been forcing this transition for a year and a half, and as of Q1 2026, creating new legacy campaigns is officially blocked. Advantage Plus sales campaigns, or ASC, are now the absolute default for e-commerce. There is no going back. So, what does a winning account structure actually look like today? It's incredibly simplified. You want one ASC campaign doing the heavy lifting with 60 to 80% of your budget. Then, one standard retargeting campaign taking maybe 10 to 15%. You can keep one optional standard prospecting campaign for specific angles that ASC might miss. And you want broad targeting as your default. Why? Because simple, highly consolidated accounts are what build the massive signal density that Lattice and UTIs absolutely require to function properly. And within those consolidated campaigns, your optimal creative pipeline needs to look something like this. It's a deliberate mix. You should aim for 30 to 40% UGC and testimonials. Dedicate 20 to 30% to direct, hard-hitting product demos. Round the whole thing out with some lifestyle content and maybe some founder-led or promotional offers. Remember, Andromeda rewards conceptual variety that maps to different customer personas, so you have to feed it accordingly. I want to anchor this entire explainer with one prevailing thought. The algorithm handles delivery, the human role moved upstream. Listen, your job is no longer to be a button-clicking media buyer staring at Ads Manager trying to perfectly slice and dice audiences. Your job today is high-level creative strategy, maintaining flawless signal hygiene, and constructing irresistible offers. That's the real work now. So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you still trying to outsmart the algorithm, or are you finally ready to properly feed it? The 2026 Meta AI stack heavily rewards advertisers who provide it with rich variety and clean data, and it actively, ruthlessly punishes those who try to constrain it. It's time to audit your accounts, upgrade your tracking, and focus your energy on world-class creative. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.